ओम सर्वधर्मस्थापकस्त्वं सर्वधर्मस्वरूपकः आचार्याणां महाचार्यो रामकृष्णाय ते नमः. We are studying Sri Ramakrishna the Great Master, fifth part, Master in the Divine Mood and Narendranath, and we are in the 8th chapter, first section. And the name, slightly modified, is Narendranath's Learning from the World and from the Master. Now, we are discussing that what was influencing him most. And the point is, first is his father. And his father had no interest in spiritual life. And he did not know Sanskrit and he had not studied the Gita. He was too much infatuated with the English and Farsi language. And he had studied the Bible. Now and then he used to read the Bible and the Hafiz's poetry. And though he did not follow it in his life, but he used to enjoy as a temporary pleasure. And to Narendra, he gave Bible and telling, if there is any spirituality, it is here. So this is the first influence on Narendranath, learning from the world. Secondly, his Western education was meant for us because we are all blindly have Western education even today. And so is our ideal. How to come out of the influence of this Western civilization or ideal through Sri Ramakrishna. That is what Swami Vivekananda's life will show us. So, on the Western side, he studied English poetry and literature and European and Indian histories, though in Bengali original Indian is not mentioned here, it mentioned somewhere else, and Western logic. Now Western logic appears to be much critical. And we change this sentence totally, thoroughly imbued with Western ideas. It was therefore natural that he should doubt, in many cases considered to be untrue, the words of the scriptures and shrink from accepting any particular man as the Guru in any sense except that he was an erudite teacher. So the principle of Western education is analysis and inquiry and analysis, and that had entered his very marrow. That was the consideration. Now we come to the third para. Society and his father's life contributed to that education of his. We have seen that, but is now again putting it, the ideals of life of Narendra's guardians. And guardians here means father. though he will show something, and the condition of the then Calcutta society. We have read this. We have read this. So he read all Western philosophers. And reading the Western philosophers before his BA examination, in order to ascertain what was indeed real, including the German philosophers, especially Kant, and also went to medical college to study the physiology. Now this had proved, yes, that knowledge proved clearly the utter inadequacy of the human mind and intellect to define their own scope and to reveal a glimpse of the truth existing beyond that limit, far less to give us a clue to the discovery of a sure means to the realization of God. God is called here that absolute truth, and thereby to the enjoyment of eternal peace. So this Western education is not giving him. Mind and intellect is not giving him. So here we come to para 5. Narendra's vacillation as to which method, the Eastern or the Western, was to be adopted for realizing the truth. Now he knows that the Eastern method is there, scriptures, guru, whether that is to be taken, or the Western education which requires inquiry, analysis. Narendra clearly understood with the aid of Western science and philosophy, because he studied physiology and science also, that the reaction of the brain and the sense organs to the external stimuli created every moment various changes in the human mind and thereby produced in it the knowledge of pain and pleasure. External stimuli carried through sense organs produce reaction in the brain and gave pain and pleasure. It was of these mental changes alone that man gained any direct experience with the help of time, space, etc. This is the important sentence. Now let us study this. This Kant is telling us, especially. We think that we are directly experiencing objects of the world, and it is entirely false. According to Western science, those who want a little more study of this, may I refer them to a small English book by C.E.M. Joad, J-O-A-D, Philosophical Aspects of Modern Science. Now, we think that some object is there and it is throwing some rays on our eyes retina. Nobody has seen them. And we feel that they are causing some sensations in our nerves. Nobody has seen them. And that mind collects all them and presents it to the intellect. Nobody has seen them. And this intellect reacts on it. And that is our knowledge. That is what is being stated here. So what we are aware of clearly, directly, the reaction of our brain, the reaction of our intellect. We are not aware of any other thing. So this directness of vision, directness of anything brought by the sense organs is smashed by the Western science itself. Though the scientist does not understand it. And that is why C.M. Joad has called philosophy of modern science, philosophical aspects of modern science. So science and philosophy together are showing us that we are being deceived every moment. Not question of truth or untruth. But we are deceived every moment that we are directly seeing the world. We are not seeing the world. We are seeing the reaction of our buddhi on that stimuli brought from the outside. And so, it was of these mental changes alone that man gained any direct experience with the help of time, space, etc. Etc. is not there. Time, space, and causation. Desh, Kal, Nimitta. The mind is made of Desh, Kal, Nimitta. Yesterday we saw that. And when we try to know anything that is passed through this web of Desh, Kal, Nimitta, and what is projected there, that much we see, that much we are aware of. So, that is the limitation. I will explain this a little with the help of projective science. Now, we are sitting in a hall. There is a screen in front of us, and a man is walking from distance toward the screen. What we see? We see the reflection or the shadow on the screen. We are not seeing that man. And the man is walking toward the screen. And what we see, that man is growing in size. Because the shadow is growing in size. And we reason out and say the man must be walking, if we are little more analytical. So what are we seeing? 3-dimension something as projected on 2-dimension something. Now we do not know world has how many dimensions. And this relativity as proposed by Einstein, that means time also is a factor. Space has 3 dimensions plus time. So we see only the projection in the 3 dimensions. We are not aware of the effect of time also. So our knowledge of the world is not true. If we can say the world is unreal, the world of our experience is unreal. Because our experience is distorted by our mind. But the real nature of the external world and the things in it which produce the aforesaid stimulation and changes in his mind remain forever unknown and unknowable to him. So this is like by Anumeyavad. We do not know if there is an external world. We see only the changes in our mind. And we infer that there is an external world. So that is what Narendra saw. This is very beautiful and important analysis. Huh? So, then this fact was equally applicable to the internal world and the real nature of man himself. Internal world means our mind, our senses, our apparatus by which we are working. We do not know its real nature. We know only the changes caused in our mind. So this is applicable to the reality of man. If we try to know, that reality also we know through our mind. So our own reality, our own internal world and the external world, the real nature remains unknown and unknowable to mind and intellect. There also it was seen that although some unknown entity produced in the mind the consciousness of I, so our I consciousness also, we do not know its real nature. We know that something is there which causes this I, and various other ideas with the help of its own power. There is something which has produced I and other ideas and the power. Man could not detect and comprehend it inasmuch as that entity itself remained beyond time and space. That entity is beyond time and space and also causation. And that is causing something in us which is called I, and identifying with body, mind, etc. That is I. Thus, that is beautiful analysis of Swamiji's knowledge by Swami Saradananda of Swamiji's knowledge of everything that is gained by the Western education. Thus kept back by the impregnable wall of time and space. The human mind was absolutely helpless in whatever direction, inward or outward, it pursued the search after truth. Our inward also we start to study as an object, passes through the mind. Narendra knew that the instruments called the five senses of knowledge and the mind and intellect, with the help of which man had been attempting to unveil the mystery of the universe, could not succeed in revealing its ultimate cause of the universe. That the sense perceptions on the basis of which man proceeded to build his arguments and draw conclusions were themselves full of errors and mistakes. Please, those who believe in the Western method or their own mind and intellect should understand how Swamiji clearly came to this conclusion. It does not require Vedanta to understand this. It requires a critical brain, and that is what Swamiji was following. So, to say that the world we observe is not real, our experience is distorted. For that, Vedanta is not necessary. If our analytical faculty is strong enough, the Western science and philosophy itself, though they do not understand, is showing us that what we feel, see, and hear is not as it is. So they say terms, can't put thought of these terms. The world as it appears and the world as it is. So world as it is an unknown. We see only the world as it appears. And proceeding on this, we draw all our conclusions and everything. All the attempts of the Western savants to ascertain the existence of a self apart from the body had been doomed to miserable failure. So they are trying to understand this self. They feel something self, but they try to study it as an object through the mind, and we come to the same failure. Miserable failure. The ultimate conclusions of Western philosophy regarding the spiritual truth did not therefore appear to be reasonable to Narendra. So Narendra reached this conclusion that about spiritual truths, the Western is inadequate. There also arose a serious doubt in his mind whether it was desirable in imitation of the West to found philosophy on the basis of accepting as true and natural the sense perceptions of the ordinary people who were ever attached to the enjoyments of sense pleasure. Another thing, it is not about the sense organs of the yogis. It is not about the sense organs of the sages or rishis. It is about the sense organs of an ordinary man. And ordinary man is attached to enjoyment. So that produces another distortion. And the West, in imitation of the West, to found philosophy on this. Or whether it was meek and proper to base it on the uncommon realizations of great souls of ideal character like Buddha and Jesus, according to the practice of the East, in spite of the fact that their experiences ran counter to those of ordinary man. So what is the other side? Buddha is there, Christ is there, all the incarnations are there, all the scriptures are there. And they also are products of experience. That experience is different from the ordinary man's experience. Now, ordinary man is attached to pleasure and the result is pain. And these people's life are perfect and blissful. So the point comes whether their experiences should be followed or the ordinary man's experience should be followed. I hope it is very clear that the knowledge which the rishis have, that has produced in the rishis absolute peace and bliss and perfection. And the knowledge which the modern science is giving us is full of desires, enjoyment leading to pain, always ending in pain. So, whether that is true or this is true, serious doubt in Narendra's mind. Now, the problem is that the experiences the sages have is contrary to the experience of ordinary man. So, which to follow? Narendra kept his resolve of attaining God, the ultimate truth, and accepted only the beneficial aspects of the Western approach. Now, this is what we all have to do. That the Western approach has something positive, useful. It is not all rejectable. And the Indian or the Eastern has something which is superstitious, blindly followed. And so, through the Western method of analysis, we have to find out what has to be accepted. So, Narendra is coming to this point now. All of us have to come to this point now. All of us need not go through these struggles. Narendra has struggled for us. And so, we have to accept only the positive aspects of Western education. Western education brought some revolution in the Indian mind. And out of that revolution, the spirit of analysis, holding on to reason up to the point where that reason can lead us is one of the points. Although a greater part of the conclusions of Western philosophy regarding spirituality appear to Narendra to be unreasonable. He greatly extolled Western discoveries in the material sciences. Because for analyzing and all that discovered there's so many things. Microscope and telescope and this meter and that meter, and their help we should take. Natural sciences and the Western method of analysis. So these two things, analytical methods of the Western reason and Western science giving us so many things to test with. Anyway, I am referring to yesterday's one point, small, suddenly it came to my mind, that the name of Spencer is mentioned. And Narendra mastered Spencer, so that is the representative. Narendra mastered Spencer so thoroughly that in Spencer's book, he found some error according to Spencer's reasoning. And he wrote to Spencer. And Spencer accepted that and said that in the next edition I will correct this. So thoroughly Narendra had absorbed all the Western things which we read. It is not superficial reading. So he accepted these two things, truths of material science, discoveries of material science, and Western method of analysis. And in his examination of the truths of psychology and spirituality, truths of psychology, truths about the mind. Spirituality, truths about the Atman or spirit. He always took the help of those discoveries and analysis. That he went on applying every time, even on Sri Ramakrishna. He always tried since then to analyze and understand the extraordinary realization of the Master's life with the help of these instruments and those things alone, which stood the rigor of these tests, he accepted as true and fearlessly followed in practice. So main thing in Narendra's life is to follow it in practice. It is not only an intellectual gymnastic. So those parts of the master's life and achievements or realizations, he would test, analyze. And those which appear to be true in that analysis, he will follow 10%. Please, our way is being clear. Though a terrible restlessness for the realization of truth was gnawing at his heart, so that is Narendranath. Narendranath is not a scholar. Narendranath is a genuine search for truth. Narendranath is a sadhak of intense yearning. That is not giving up. That restlessness for the realization of truth was gnawing at his heart. Now this restlessness is not normally what we think of restlessness, yearning. Still, it was against his nature to do anything unintelligently. Analysis is not giving up, search for truth is not giving up. Or to respect anyone out of fear of him. Fear is what type? Because he is a big authority. Secondly, if I do not accept Thakur, he may be angry on me. Narendra did not think of this. And result was Thakur was never angry. Thakur liked to get tested. Test in every way you can and you'll find the truth. That is the importance why Master in the Divine Mode and Narendranath. If atheism were the inevitable result of the exercise of discrimination to the utmost of his power, he was ever ready to accept that. Even means he had an inborn faith in God. That was inborn. But if analysis tells that it is wrong, if the analysis disproves God, then he is ready to accept that. For him, the absolute truth is more important than what his sanskaras even are. I remember here one funny thing. I told that sometimes. One of my friends, a monk of the Ramakrishna order, Venugopal Maharaj in Belgaum. From his childhood, he has love and faith in God. And he became attracted to Vedanta. And somebody told him that in Vedanta there is no place of God. And he became so much disturbed from that day. He did not want to give up bhakti. He did not want to give up Vedanta. And he put his problem to me. I said, Vedanta is God and God alone. Our ordinary concept of God may not be true, may not be final. We have to go beyond that Saguni Ishwar. Does not mean Vedanta does not accept God. This is the peculiar understanding of Vedanta in some people. I said, if you accept Gita as a proper book of Vedanta, 134 references to Ishvara I took from the Gita and gave the list to you. He was ever ready to accept that. He would not shrink from truth or from the endeavor to solve life's mystery, even at the cost of his life. So he was ready to give up his life if he does not find the truth. Of course, this thought is not negative in him. The meaning is that I must find the truth. Not to speak of the enjoyments or pleasures in the world, absolutely not. Not interested in pleasures of the world, interested only in search of truth. And for that, if he has to give up life, he is ready. There is a Marathi line. देवाच्या सख्यत्वासाठी पडाव्या जीवलगांशी तुटी सर्व अर्पावे शेवटी प्राण तोही वेचावा. For the friendship of God, you may have to give up all connection with your relatives, those who were very dear to you. And you may have to give up everything. And in the end, you may have to give up your life. But you have to get the friendship with God. Having therefore a steadfast eye to the pursuit of the ultimate truth, he now engaged himself in pursuing Western education and accepting its sounder parts. He gave up the straight path of faith and devotion under its influence. Straight path means in this, these problems are not there. Faith and devotion path is very straight. And we have seen in the beginning that Thakur had accepted that path. But Narendra gave it up because of the strong conviction in the analysis. He gave up the straight path of faith and devotion under the influence as doubts oppressed and sometimes overwhelmed him. So, doubts oppressed him, overwhelmed him, but he is using analysis. He is having experiences, but this doubt overpowering him, he is not going through that path. But his extraordinary perseverance and intellectual powers, real intellectual powers, and perseverance. I must find God. I will not give up the attempt. I will continuously pursue that attempt. Prevailed finally and helped him to have the ultimate aim of his life fulfilled at last. Is that the sentence? Okay. So that is not giving up. So he finally will come to the truth. He will examine the Eastern things and will finally come to the truth because perseverance. But people then happen to think that Narendra accepted indiscriminately all the opinions published in Western books. he was thorough with the Western books and he was applying their methods. People thought that he is blindly following the West. His partiality at the time for Western opinions became so well known among his friends that when one day, after having read the Gita, he highly eulogized it. So Gita eulogized. Huh? They were taken aback and told the master of this. The master too said, I hope he did not do so because some Western scholars had expressed that opinion. You see, difference between others and master. Huh? Others thought she accept Western things blindly. And Narendra praised the Gita. They were surprised and they told it to Thakur. Thakur is telling साहेबদের মধ্যে কেউ গীতা সম্বন্ধে ওরূপ মত প্রকাশ করিয়াছে বলিয়াই সে এরূপ করে নাই তো বিউটিফুল it is putting like a question akshepatmak question I hope he did not do so under because some sahib has praised Gita so he has understood Narendra will not do so because some sahib has said but because he has found it right. So that is the difference between Thakur judgment and ordinary people's judgment. Thakur knew that how much he believes in the Western science. And yet, when he praised Gita, the Eastern wisdom, Thakur did not think that he has done under because some Western scholar has praised it. Narendra's faith in the existence of God was at this time protected by his Guru's grace and his own wonderful vision. That is one side. Second side is he is getting extraordinary visions from his childhood. And after coming to Thakur, all that is so much developed. How can he doubt the actual experience? He will try to understand. But we have seen the first 3 meetings. And then he is continuously coming to Thakur. And how he can doubt that? So that protected him. He did not become atheist. One thing, however, is to be carefully noted now. After all this analysis, Saradananda is telling some fundamental truth. After all this analysis. One thing, however, is to be carefully noted that Narendra had met the master and had a few extraordinary spiritual experiences before he came into contact with the Western education, which produced the great revolution in his ideas. So, Western education before BA, and he had met Thakur at the time of his FA. So, one side the extraordinary experiences through Thakur, the other side all these doubts and analysis and everything. But he cannot lose faith in the experiences which he had. We already told the reader of those experiences. It is clear that they helped him very much in placing firm faith in the existence of God. Otherwise, it is difficult to ascertain where and how far he would have been carried away by the Western ideas and doctrines which proved that God, the cause of the universe, was unknown and unknowable. Not atheism, but agnosticism. That God may be the ultimate cause, but it is unknown and unknowable. But he is seeing Thakur, he is seeing the extraordinary experiences. So, if he had not them, he would have been carried away, not by atheism, but agnosticism. There came the point that when he came to Thakur, he asked him, have you seen God? Although they would not have altogether destroyed his faith in the existence of God, atheism he could never have reached. Atheism is mentioned that If the analysis leads me to atheism, I ready to give up. But atheism he had never reached. But the agnosticism was coming. Although they would not have altogether destroyed his faith in the existence of God on account of his strong previous good impressions, there was every chance of it being terribly shaken by the impact. But that was not to be. For was his life not protected by providence to accomplish a special task in the world? That is where Saradananda Swamiji brings it to him. It is he who has given the light to the world. He received all the answers from Sri Ramakrishna. I would sometimes say we are small question mark. Narendra is a big question mark. And we suppress our questions. Narendra is not going to suppress his questions. And Master is all answers. So Narendra questions the Master, gets all the answers and gives them to us. That is place of Narendranath. So that is what the Providence wanted. That is for what Thakur brought him from Saptarshi. So that means if, but that would never happen. He came with Thakur. So it would never happen that he will not meet Thakur or Thakur will not meet him. For was his life not protected by providence to accomplish a special task in the world? The Guru, the knower of Brahman, in whom he found a refuge by the grace of God, said to him over and over again, God always hears the plaintive prayer of man, and he can be seen, heard, and touched palpably, being more real than the fact of this conversation of ours. I am talking to you, if this is real, much more real is that we can talk to God. Because here both are in the objective world and there the reality you are talking to. So you can see, touch, talk, more real than what we are talking. I stake my credit on this. Mairi bolchi used to say. Shapat purvak bolchi. Mairi bolchi. I stake my credit on this. Ami bolchi. On another occasion, he said to him, if you cannot accept the form of God or the common well-known ideas about him because they are the products of human thought, and at the same time have faith in the existence of a God, the controller of the universe, he will certainly bestow his grace on you if you offer such a plaintive prayer as this. Oh God, I don't know thy nature. Please manifest thyself to me as thou really art. Now, Thakur sees visions. Narendra does not accept them. He says that it is your play of your mind. And common well-known ideas about him, that is called anthropomorphic, as the human mind thinks. So, the forms of God, ideas about God, are made in human mind. But Thakur would ask him, but you believe in God or not? Evidently I believe. Why you believe? If the world is there, there has to be somebody to move the world. Automatically, answer is nonsense. Automatically only means that we do not know its nature. Just like the medical term allergy. When they do not know the cause of something, they say it is allergy. So, this automatically the world goes on is not rational. So, what is that? Thakur taught him a method. Beautiful. तव तत्व न जानामि कीदृशोऽसि महेश्वर यादृशोऽसि महादेव तादृशाय नमो नमः. I do not know your real nature, but you exist. And you tell me what is your real nature. So, this prayer is accepted by Narendra. Though faith is not accepted, prayer is accepted. And it is prayer which is going to resolve the conflict. Meditate like that. We shall see that in the next paragraph. So the form of God are common well-known ideas about him because they are the products of human thought. Now there is another special trick on this. Many people say that ideas of God are anthropomorphic, but they fail to understand that our experience of the world is also anthropomorphic. And Narendra has already found this. Narendra has found that our experience of the world is not at all real. Our experience of the world depends upon our mind, human mind. So, those who deny God because it is anthropomorphic should understand that our ideas of the world are anthropomorphic. And this Swamiji has told in his lectures afterwards. So that is the brilliance of Swamiji. And Thakur understands all these. And though his visions are real, he does not ask Naren to accept that. Okay, don't accept. But you are accepting God. And you pray to remove all anthropomorphic ideas from your mind. It is superfluous to say that these words of the Master reassured him immensely. Thakur is embodiment of truth and he is not deluded. Narendra saw so many things that he is not deluded. And he's seen God and he's talking about God and he's telling I experienced God. These words of the Master reassured him immensely and made him apply his mind to sadhana with greater zeal than ever. Sadhana means adopting every means to realize God. Narendra sadhana. As a result of this teaching, see what sadhana Narendra took. Before that, he is introducing a small topic. Hamilton, the Western philosopher, has said at the end of his book on philosophy that the human intellect gives it a mere indication of the existence of God, the controller of this world, and there its function ends. It is not in its power to reveal the nature of God. So here, philosophy ends, and where philosophy ends, there religion begins. So philosophy is the product of intelligence. And intelligence brings him to this point that there seems that there should be a God. But what is the nature of God? They cannot go there. The other day we had the webinar from the Muzaffarpur and philosophy they talked about. There were many philosophers. And I said, I don't believe in philosophy at all. Intellectual pursuit of truth. So, Hamilton has said, so here philosophy ends, and where philosophy ends, there religion begins. Religion gives us direct experience of God, and that will begin intellectually exhausted, and now religion begins. This sentence Narendra used to like very much. Narendra liked these words of Hamilton very much. He quoted it to us many times in the course of conversation. Narendra, however, did not give up the study of philosophy, though he applied his mind to sadhana. Because as much that positive analysis and all that, so he continued philosophy. But philosophy will not give him truth. He practically spent his time in music, meditation, and study. Music he adopted because he used to go deep through music. And meditation to realize God. And study for analysis. Now he is sadhana. He adopted a new method of meditation and spent whole nights in it. New method as taught by Thakur. Narendra adopted a new method of practicing meditation from that time on, when Thakur taught him. We have already said that in our meditation on the Lord, with or without forms, we can but think of him anthropomorphically. That means through the human mind. Whether Nirakar, but also that concept is in human mind. Nirakar does not make it free from anthropomorphism. Before he realized this, Narendranath used to apply his mind during meditation to the thought of the formless Brahman with attributes as prescribed by the Brahma Samaj. But this Western education had brought him to this point. But coming to the conclusion that even the conception about the nature of God was anthropomorphic, he now gave up that kind of meditation also and prayed to the effect, "O God, make me fit to see your real nature." Show me your real nature. Narayana is telling, make me fit to see your real nature. He then removed all kinds of thoughts from his mind. So thoughts in the mind about the world, about God, remove them. Remove every thought from the mind. And pray to God. And keeping it still. So this is again Alatha Shanti Prakaran. Because the mind moves here and there, so these ideas are coming. If the mind does not move, then we'll understand what is the truth. He then removed all kinds of thought from his mind and keeping it still and motionless like the flame of a lamp in a windless place, that control he had, that strength he had, tried to remain in that state. As a result of doing so for a short time, Narendra's mind, which had all along been restrained, because already that habit was there, used to merge in itself so deeply that even the consciousness of time and of his own body disappeared now and then. Even the body consciousness went away. Time depends upon changes of the world. When the mind is still, ideas of time have gone now and then. He sat for meditation in his room when all the household had gone to bed and spent whole nights that way on many occasions. As a result of that, one day Narendra had an extraordinary vision. Later he described it thus to us in the course of conversation. An extraordinary vision during that meditation, the vision of Buddha. Why the vision of Buddha? Because that is Buddha's method. And if somebody has done it before, his impression remains on that method. This is the meditation adopted by Buddha. And Thakur taught him the same meditation. And so Buddha appeared. There flowed in my mind, Narendra is telling, there flowed in my mind a current of bliss when I kept it still. Ananda is our real nature. Because the mind moves here and there, that Ananda is broken. What we think, pleasure given by the senses, is break in that Ananda. And that produces pain. But if you make it still, the whole bliss of nature is there. A current of serene bliss. Serene means tranquil, not jumping bliss. A current of serene bliss when I kept it still, devoid of all objects. I felt for a long time, even after the end of the meditation, a sort of intoxication under the impulse. So that is generally what our teachers say, that if 1 hour you have concentrated the mind, relax on that very seat. The experiences come at that point. I felt for a long time, even after the end of the meditation, a sort of intoxication under its impulse. So I did not feel inclined to leave the seat and get up immediately. One day, when I was sitting in that condition at the end of the meditation, I saw the extraordinary figure of a monk appear suddenly from where I did not know and stand before me at a little distance, filling the room with a divine effulgence. That consciousness spreads like light. He was in ochre cloth with a commanderlu in his hand. His face bore such a calm and serene expression of inwardness, born of indifference to all things, that I was amazed and felt much drawn towards him. He walked towards he walked forward towards me with a slow step, with his eyes steadfastly fixed on me, as if he wanted to say something. But I was seized with fear. So when this strange experience came, this fear came. But I but I was seized with fear and could not keep quiet. I got up from my seat, opened the door, and walked out of the room with rapid step. Door was closed and he was seeing Buddha outside. Walked out of the room with rapid step. The next moment I thought, why this foolish fear? I made bold and went back into the room to hear the monk, who alas was no longer there. I waited long in vain and felt, because that fear has spoiled everything, and felt dejected, repenting that I had been stupid enough to fly away without listening to him. I have seen many monks, but never have I found such an extraordinary expression in any other face. That face has been indelibly imprinted in my heart. It may be a hallucination because he is not sure on that point, but very often it comes to my mind that I had the good fortune of seeing Lord Buddha that day. So we have come to the end of the first section of learning from the world and from the master. Master has so many experiences. With the help of the master, Narendra has so many experiences. But he using Western science and analysis to find out the truth within, and has come to the point that all these are anthropomorphic. And he wants to go beyond that anthropomorphy. And Thakur has taught him that the ideas of the world also are anthropomorphic. So remove every idea from your mind, make the mind still and see what happens. And when he did that, he succeeded because of his sanskaras, and he got the bliss and he saw Buddha, but because he was afraid, he lost that vision. Now that is the first part. We still have another part where to show what the world taught him, the terrible things of the world, and how Thakur believed in him, how Thakur led him further. Om Sarvadharma Sthapakasvam Sarvadharma Swarupakaha Acharyarnam Mahacharyo Ramakrishna Ayate Namaha. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat. Sri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu.
Jaya